Harmonic roots. Amelia's journey. Unveiling the past. The moment of revelation. The Peterson home had always been a sanctuary of warmth and understanding. Sunlight filtered through delicate lace curtains, casting soft shadows on the well-worn family albums and musical instruments that lined the walls. Amelia sat across from her mother, Elizabeth, feeling a sudden shift in the atmosphere. Something momentous was about to unfold. Elizabeth Peterson was not a woman given to dramatic gestures. A dedicated elementary school teacher with kind eyes and hands that had comforted countless children, she had always approached life's most significant moments with a quiet, steady grace. Today was different. Her fingers, usually steady when grading papers or playing the piano, trembled almost imperceptibly as she reached for an old, carefully preserved envelope. 25 years, Elizabeth whispered, more to herself than to Amelia. 25 years have carried this. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. She had known she was adopted. It was never a secret in their household. Her parents had told her the story of her adoption with such love, such openness, that the word had never felt like a separation, but like a chosen connection. Mom. Amelia's voice was soft, a mixture of curiosity and sudden anticipation. Elizabeth's eyes glistened. When we brought you home, your birth mother, Maria, she entrusted me with something. A letter, a connection to your past. I promised her I would give it to you when you were ready. When you were old enough to understand, to choose. The envelope was yellowed with age, the paper thin and delicate. Amelia could see the careful folds, the way it had been preserved with almost reverent care. Her mother had kept this secret, this bridge to her past, protected and untouched for a quarter of a century. A lifetime of love. Amelia's mind drifted to her childhood, a childhood filled with music, love, and unconditional support. Dr. James Peterson, her father, was a cardiac surgeon whose precision in the operating room was matched only by his gentle approach to parenting. He had a way of making every challenge seem like an opportunity, every obstacle a chance for growth. Your adoption was the most intentional decision we ever made, he would often say. You weren't just a child we received, you were a child we chose, with every fiber of our being. Music had been the language of their home. From her earliest memories, Amelia was surrounded by melodies. Her father played the cello with a passion that made the instrument seem alive. Her mother's piano playing was more restrained but no less beautiful, each note carefully considered, each phrase telling a story. They had recognized Amelia's musical talent early. Not by pushing her, but by creating an environment where creativity could flourish. Musical instruments were as common in their home as books, as natural as conversations. The letter's promise. Now, with trembling fingers, Amelia unfolded the letter. The paper was fragile, the handwriting elegant, a testament to a moment of profound love and difficult choice. Maria Rosario's words emerged. My dearest daughter. If you are reading this, you have grown into the woman I could only dream of. I want you to know that my decision was never about abandonment, but about love. A love so profound that I wanted to give you a chance at a life I could not provide at the time. You will find me in São Pedro da Aldeia, a small coastal town where the music of the sea never truly stops. Where my family has lived for generations. Where your roots await you. Tears pooled in Amelia's eyes. Not of sadness, but of a strange, expansive emotion, a mixture of longing, hope, and a deep, fundamental understanding of love's complexity. Elizabeth reached out, her hand covering her daughter's. Are you ready? She asked. Not pushing, not demanding, simply offering support. Amelia looked up, a smile breaking through her tears. I think I've been ready my entire life. The journey begins. The decision to trace her origins was not born of a lack in her current life. The Petersons had given her everything: love, education, support, a sense of self. This was a journey of understanding, of completing a circle, of honoring both the family that raised her and the family that had made the ultimate sacrifice of love. Juilliard had been more than an educational institution for Amelia. It was where her musical identity had been refined, where her talent had been recognized not just as a skill, but as a form of emotional expression. Her professors spoke of her ability to make instruments speak, to tell stories through melody that words could never capture. And now, that journey of musical storytelling would extend to her personal narrative. The address in the letter was more than just a location. It was a promise. A connection. The first note in a symphony of discovery that was about to unfold. Amelia held the letter close to her heart, feeling the weight of generations, the complexity of love, the beautiful uncertainty of a journey just beginning. The musical legacy. The Peterson household had always been a sanctuary of passion and purpose, where the lines between professional dedication and artistic expression blurred into a rich tapestry of love and aspiration. Dr. James Peterson and his wife Elizabeth were not just parents, but architects of a life that celebrated individual potential in its most profound form. Early beginnings. Amelia's earliest memories were a symphony of sounds and emotions. While other children played with toys, she found solace in the vibrations of musical instruments. Her adoption into the Peterson family was never a source of distance, but rather a testament to the depth of their unconditional love. James and Elizabeth had chosen Amelia with a deliberate intention, recognizing in her a spark that transcended biological connection. Dr. James Peterson was more than just a cardiac surgeon. His precision in the operating room was matched only by his sensitivity to the emotional landscapes of those around him. He saw in Amelia not just a daughter, but a prodigy whose musical talent was a language of its own. During their cherished Sunday morning breakfasts, a ritual that had defined their relationship since her childhood, he would often reflect on her unique journey. "Music for you," he would say, spreading marmalade on his toast, his eyes twinkling with a mixture of pride and wonder, "is not just an art. It's a conversation with the universe." Elizabeth complemented James's scientific precision with her nuanced understanding of human emotion. As an elementary school teacher, she had witnessed countless children's potential, but Amelia was different. She nurtured Amelia's musical gifts with a blend of academic rigor and emotional intelligence, introducing her to literature that spoke to the soul of artistic expression. Musical mastery. Amelia's relationship with music was nothing short of transformative. The violin was her first true love, an instrument that became an extension of her emotional landscape. When she played, listeners would close their eyes, feeling each note as if it were a whispered secret. Her technique was impeccable, but it was the raw emotion behind each performance that set her apart. The piano became her storyteller. Where the violin sang with passionate intensity, the piano spoke in complex narratives. Her compositions were intricate landscapes of sound, weaving together classical techniques with innovative contemporary approaches. Each piece was a chapter, each movement a paragraph in an unfolding musical novel. The flute introduced a different dimension to her musical vocabulary. Delicate yet powerful, it represented her ability to communicate the most nuanced emotions, the soft rustling of leaves, the quiet anticipation before a storm, the gentle whispers of memory. Juilliard and beyond. Juilliard was not just an educational institution for Amelia, it was a crucible of artistic transformation. Here, her raw talent was refined, her intuitive understanding of music systematically developed. Her professors recognized immediately that she was not just another talented student, but a potential revolutionary in the world of classical music. Her adoptive parents' support was unwavering. Dr. Peterson would attend her performances, his surgical hands now gently holding concert programs, his professional detachment melting away in the face of his daughter's musical brilliance. Elizabeth would compile scrapbooks, documenting every performance, every milestone. The narrative of Amelia's musical journey was more than a personal achievement. It was a testament to the power of nurture, of finding one's true calling, and of the profound connection that transcends biological boundaries. Her music became her voice, her instrument of communication with the world. A legacy unfolding. As she stood on various stages, from intimate recital halls to grand concert venues, Amelia represented something more significant than individual talent. She embodied the possibility of human potential, the magic that occurs when passion meets opportunity, when love provides the foundation for extraordinary achievement. Her adoption was not a footnote in her story, but a fundamental chapter. The Petersons had not just given her a home, they had recognized and nurtured a musical spirit waiting to be unleashed upon the world. And so, Amelia's music continued to evolve, a living, breathing testament to the extraordinary journey of a girl who found her voice, not through words, but through the universal language of music. Roots unveiled. A musical reunion. The journey begins. The decision to travel to Portugal was more than a geographical movement, it was a pilgrimage of the soul. Amelia had spent months preparing, learning fragments of Portuguese, researching the town, and mentally preparing for a meeting that would redefine her understanding of family and self. The coastal town of Nazaré welcomed her with a complexity that mirrored her own emotional landscape. Nestled between the Atlantic Ocean and ancient cliffs, the town seemed to embody transition, a place where land met sea, where tradition intertwined with modernity. Narrow cobblestone streets wound like musical phrases, each turn revealing a new perspective, each corner holding a potential story. The sound of fado music, melancholic, passionate, deeply rooted, became the soundtrack of her arrival. Those haunting melodies seemed to speak directly to her journey, a musical language of longing, discovery, and profound connection. First encounter. Isabella was waiting for her at the small, sun-drenched plaza near the town's historic center. At 72, she was a testament to resilience, her weathered hands spoke of years of hard work, her eyes of countless untold stories. When they first embraced, the world seemed to pause. Mina Fila, Isabella whispered, tears tracing lines on her cheeks that mapped decades of emotion. You have your mother's eyes, her hands. It was more than a simple greeting. It was an acknowledgement of a connection that had been suspended in time, now suddenly, beautifully restored. Isabella's touch was both tentative and fierce, a grandmother's love that had waited years to be expressed. Musical siblings. Sophia, her younger sister by 5 years, was a revelation. A violinist who had studied at the Lisbon Conservatory, she represented a parallel version of Amelia's musical journey. Their first conversation was a beautiful linguistic dance, broken English mixed with Portuguese, punctuated by musical references that needed no translation. I always felt something was missing, Sophia confided during a late-night conversation on the balcony overlooking the Atlantic. The moonlight cast shadows that seemed to connect rather than divide them. And now, here you are. Their similarities were striking. Similar hand movements when discussing music, the same way of tilting their head when listening intently, a shared passionate intensity that seemed to pulse beneath their skin. Sophia's violin collection became a bridge, each instrument telling a story, each bowstroke a shared memory they were just beginning to understand. Miguel, the reserved pianist. Miguel, her brother, presented a different dynamic. A jazz pianist who had carved out a reputation in Lisbon's competitive music scene, he approached their reunion with a musician's careful observation. Initially more reserved, his welcome was subtle, a raised eyebrow, a slight smile that spoke volumes. Their first jam session was nothing short of miraculous. What began as a tentative exploration quickly transformed into a profound musical dialogue. Mozart flowed into improvised jazz, classical techniques merged with spontaneous creativity. It was as if their genetic musical connection transcended learned technique, revealing a deeper, almost spiritual musical language. It's like we've been playing different parts of the same composition, Miguel said after their session, a rare moment of emotional openness breaking through his typically reserved demeanor. The broader family narrative. Through conversations with Isabella, Amelia learned the complex story of her biological origins. Maria, her biological mother, had been a talented musician facing impossible choices. A promising classical guitarist, she had been forced to make heart-wrenching decisions due to economic challenges and societal pressures. Your mother loved you more than words can express, Isabella would say, her fingers tracing old photographs. Her decision was an act of the deepest love, giving you a chance she couldn't provide. A new understanding of family. The journey was transformative. Amelia wasn't replacing her life with the Petersons, she was expanding her understanding of family, of love, of connection. Her adoptive parents' unwavering support had prepared her for this moment, they had given her the emotional security to explore her roots without fear of losing her current identity. Each day in Nazaré revealed new layers. The town itself seemed to be a metaphor for her journey, a place of convergence, of multiple narratives coming together in a harmonious, complex whole. The continuing melody. As her visit progressed, Amelia realized that her story was not about choosing between families, but about understanding the beautiful complexity of human connection. Her music, always her most profound language of expression, now carried additional resonances, additional depths. The genetic musical talent that ran through her family was no longer an abstract concept but a living, breathing reality. Each note she played became a conversation, with her biological family, with her adoptive family, with herself. Nazaré, with its ancient streets and timeless ocean, bore witness to a reunion that was both intensely personal and universally profound. A journey of love and reconciliation. The untold story. The reunion between Amelia and Maria was a delicate tapestry woven from threads of love, loss, and unimaginable sacrifice. Their first meeting would take place in a small café in Porto, a neutral ground that symbolized the liminal space between their separate lives and their newfound connection. Maria's narrative. Maria's story was a testament to the complexity of human resilience and maternal love. At 19, she had been a promising classical guitarist, her fingers dancing across strings with a passion that seemed to defy her young age. The daughter of a music teacher and granddaughter of a renowned local composer, Maria came from a family where music was not just an art form, but a sacred language of expression. Her pregnancy had been both a moment of profound love and devastating complexity. The father, a touring musician she had met during a summer festival, had disappeared shortly after learning of her condition. Her family, deeply traditional and struggling financially, had been torn between support and the harsh realities of an unexpected child. I was standing at a crossroads, Maria would later explain, her voice a mixture of pain and determination. I could barely support myself, let alone a child. My music was my lifeline, my only path to something better. The decision to give Amelia up for adoption was not made in a moment, but through weeks of agonizing reflection. Maria had kept meticulous journals during that time, documents that would later reveal the depth of her love and the profound nature of her sacrifice. The moment of reunion. The cafe was quiet that autumn morning, sunlight filtering through large windows, creating a soft, almost ethereal atmosphere. Amelia arrived first, her hands trembling slightly as she ordered a coffee, her mind racing with decades of unspoken questions. Maria entered precisely at the agreed time, her movements measured, her eyes scanning the cafe with a musician's careful observation. When their eyes met, the world seemed to pause. "I never stopped loving you," Maria whispered, her voice breaking. "I always hoped you would find happiness." It was not an apology. It was a declaration of a love that had transcended time, distance, and circumstance. Unveiling the family legacy. As they talked, Amelia began to understand the rich musical heritage that had been part of her genetic inheritance. The family's musical lineage was extraordinary. Her maternal grandfather had been a respected music teacher and local composer in Porto. Her grandmother had run a small music school, nurturing generations of local musicians. Her uncle was a jazz saxophonist who had toured Europe. Her aunt Sophia was a violin maker, creating instruments that were considered works of art in musical circles. "Music was never just a profession for us," Maria explained. "It was our way of understanding the world, of expressing what words could not capture." The genetic symphony. Their conversation revealed the remarkable parallels in their musical journeys. Maria showed Amelia photographs of herself at Amelia's age. The similarity was uncanny. The way they held their hands, the intensity in their eyes when discussing music, the seemingly innate understanding of musical nuance. "Your talent," Maria said, touching Amelia's hand, "it's not something learned. It's something inherited, something that runs in our blood." Reconciliation and understanding. The reunion was not about assigning blame or healing old wounds. It was about understanding, a mutual recognition of the love that had shaped Amelia's journey. Amelia spoke of her adoptive parents, James and Elizabeth Peterson, with deep love and gratitude. Maria listened, her eyes filling with tears of relief and joy. Here was proof of the love she had hoped for when she made her difficult decision decades ago. "You were never abandoned," Maria emphasized. "You were loved. Always." A new chapter. Their first meeting was just the beginning. Plans were made for further conversations, for introducing Amelia to the broader family, for understanding the intricate tapestry of her origins. The musical legacy that had begun generations ago continued, not as a burden, but as a beautiful, continuing conversation. Amelia's life was not a story of separation, but of connection, a melody that had found its complete harmony. As they left the cafe, the autumn sun casting long shadows, both Maria and Amelia felt a sense of completion. Two lives, separated by circumstance but connected by an unbreakable thread of love and music, had finally found their way back to each other. The bridge. A symphony of family. A new chapter of love. Arya's arrival was more than a birth, she was a living, breathing testament to the power of love that transcends traditional boundaries. Conceived after Amelia's reconnection with her biological roots, Arya represented a harmonious blending of worlds, a child who would grow up understanding that family is a complex, beautiful composition. The decision to become a mother. Amelia's journey to motherhood was carefully considered. Her conversations with both her adoptive parents and her biological family had been deep, introspective dialogues about heritage, love, and connection. The decision to have a child was not just a personal choice, but a continuation of a larger family narrative. Her partner, Antonio, a renowned ethnomusicologist whom she had met during a collaborative musical project, understood the depth of this journey. His own work, documenting musical traditions across cultures, resonated with the complex family story they were creating. A unique conception of family. Arya's first birthday celebration was nothing short of a musical miracle. The gathering brought together two families, two continents, two distinct musical traditions, all unified by love and a profound understanding of human connection. The musical tapestry. The room was a living, breathing musical landscape. Dr. James Peterson, her adoptive father, played classical compositions that spoke of precision and emotional depth. Maria, her biological mother, wove traditional Portuguese folk melodies that carried centuries of cultural memory. Antonio contributed experimental ethnographic recordings, sounds that bridged traditional and contemporary musical expressions. Sophia, Amelia's biological sister, accompanied on violin. Miguel, her biological brother, provided jazz improvisations. Each musician was a thread in a larger tapestry, with little Arya at the center, a conductor of this extraordinary family symphony. Family beyond boundaries. "We are all notes in the same grand symphony," James Peterson would say, his eyes reflecting a wisdom that went beyond biological connections. And in that moment, Surrounded by the rich musical expressions, the meaning of those words became viscerally real. Aria was more than a child. She was a living bridge. She carried the musical DNA of multiple generations. She represented a healing of past separations. She embodied the possibility of love that knows no boundaries. A multilingual musical heritage. From her earliest moments, Aria was immersed in a unique linguistic and musical environment. Portuguese lullabies from her biological grandmother. Classical music theory from her adoptive grandfather. Experimental musical concepts from her father. Violin techniques from her aunt. Jazz improvisations from her uncle. Her nursery was a sound studio, her playtime a musical exploration. The deeper meaning. The family's approach to Aria was revolutionary. There was no sense of biological versus adoptive, only a pure, unconditional love that recognized the arbitrary nature of traditional family boundaries. Amelia often reflected on her own journey. From a child given up out of necessity, to a woman who had found her roots, to a mother creating a new understanding of family, her life was a testament to the transformative power of love. A living symphony. As Aria grew, she became a living embodiment of their family's philosophy. Her music would not be confined by traditional categories. She was learning to see the world as a vast, interconnected musical composition, where every sound, every story, every tradition had its place. The continuing melody. On that first birthday, surrounded by the sounds of multiple musical traditions, a new understanding of family took shape. It wasn't about blood or genetics, but about the invisible threads of love, understanding, and shared passion that connect human beings. Aria's first year was a celebration, not just of a child's life, but of the extraordinary journey that had brought her into the world. A journey of separation and reunion, of loss and profound discovery, of music that transcended all boundaries. "We are all notes in the same grand symphony," James would repeat, and in that moment, everyone understood exactly what he meant. Reflections. The composition of a life. The landscape of memory. As Amelia entered her mid-40s, she found herself standing at a unique vantage point, a place where the various movements of her life's symphony could be heard in full, rich harmony. Her journey was not a linear narrative, but a complex musical composition, with themes that intertwined, repeated, and transformed. The adopted childhood. Her earliest memories with the Petersons were bathed in a warmth that transcended biological connection. Dr. James and Elizabeth had not just raised a child, they had nurtured a spirit, cultivated a passion, and created a foundation of unconditional love that would become the cornerstone of her entire life's understanding. Adoption, James would often say, is not about filling a void. It's about creating a new universe of possibility. The journey of discovery. The process of finding her biological roots had been more than a simple search for origin. It was an intricate exploration of identity, a delicate dance between the family that had raised her and the family that had dreamed of her. Her reunions with Maria, Sophia, Miguel, and the extended Portuguese family had not been about replacing one narrative with another. Instead, they were about understanding the multi-layered complexity of love, of belonging, of human connection. A mosaic of identities. Amelia had come to understand that identity was not a singular, fixed concept. It was a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, absorbing new experiences, reinterpreting old memories. Her musical career reflected this understanding. She was no longer just a classical musician, or a daughter of two families, or a bridge between cultures. She was all of these things and more, a living, breathing composition that defied simple categorization. Motherhood and legacy. Aria, now a teenager, embodied the most profound expression of Amelia's journey. She was a child who understood, from her earliest moments, that family was a choice, a commitment, a continuous act of love. Their conversations were rich tapestries of multiple languages, musical traditions, and cultural experiences. Aria was learning to see the world not as a series of fixed boundaries, but as an interconnected symphony of human experiences. The genetic and the chosen. Amelia's understanding of family had evolved into something far more nuanced than traditional definitions. Her life was a testament to the fact that love was not about blood, but about connection. About choosing each other, day after day, with intention and depth. Professional and personal harmonies. Her work as a musician had become a metaphor for her life's philosophy. She specialized in collaborative performances that brought together musicians from different traditions, different backgrounds, creating music that spoke of unity without erasing individual uniqueness. International stages became her canvas. From concert halls in New York to small venues in Porto, from experimental music festivals to classical symphonies, Amelia created spaces where different musical languages could not just coexist, but truly communicate. The ongoing composition. As she reflected on her journey, Amelia realized that her life was an ongoing composition. Each experience was a note, each relationship a chord, each challenge a complex musical phrase. Her adoption was not a single moment of separation, but the beginning of a profound journey of connection. Her biological roots were not a replacement of her adoptive family, but an expansion of her understanding of love. A profound understanding. The word, belonging, had transformed for her. It was no longer about fitting into a predefined space, but about creating spaces of understanding, of empathy, of genuine connection. Her daughter Arya, her parents, both adoptive and biological, her siblings, her partner Antonio, her musical collaborators, they were all notes in her life's grand symphony. Sometimes harmonious, sometimes creating beautiful tension, always part of a larger, more complex melody. The continuing melody. As the years passed, Amelia understood that her journey was not unique, but it was deeply personal. She had composed a life that defied simple narratives, a life that was a testament to the beautiful complexity of human connection. Her story was a reminder that identity is not something discovered, but something continuously created. That family is not a fixed concept, but a living, breathing entity of love and choice. We are all, she would often tell her students, her daughter, her audiences, continuously composing ourselves. And in that composition, in that ongoing musical metaphor of life, Amelia had found her truest home.